what may, bring it on. I'm gonna love it.
Welcome to LDS Unmarried Life, a podcast for single members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who find themselves single either because they're divorced, widowed, or not yet married. There is no affiliation with the church. As you can see, we're filming this today if you're on YouTube, or if you're listening on the podcast and you want to see what we all look like, go to YouTube and you can see the video of this. You can find this podcast on AnnetteTalks.com, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio. And just so you know, those of you who are regular listeners, you probably know already, but I'm getting ready to phase this podcast out and start a second podcast. So if there's a topic you want to hear about being single in the church, let me know and I'll try and get to it before I finish this podcast. And you can email me at AnnetteTalks.com or find me on my Facebook page at Annette Talks. And the next podcast that I'm going to be doing is probably going to be called Annette on Life, Liberty, and Happiness. So I'm going to be shifting gears and talking about things other than being single, although that will still be part of it. So I hope that you'll follow me over to my second podcast, which will have some politics and culture and movies and books and pretty much anything I want to talk about. So let's get started with today. And I have two lovely guests, and I've mostly been talking to people right around my age, which is 51 now. And I've had some people ask me to take in some other demographics. So I pleaded with my friend Kimber here to bring me some millennials, because she's one. So today we're going to be talking to a few millennials. And we'll just start by introducing ourselves. As always, I am Annette Bybee. This is my podcast. 51. I've been divorced for 4 years. I have 3 girls that are ages 11, 10, and 8. And I love dark chocolate. And I saw Downton Abbey last night, and it was really good. And I've been watching Call the Midwife, so I have all this British stuff in my time.
So if you start with a British accent.
I sometimes feel like I should. All right, so I know you a little bit, Kimber.
Yes.
And I don't know Bree at all, so I'm going to allow you to introduce yourselves and then tell me how you know each other.
So my name is Kimber, and I am 29 years old. I have been divorced since December of 2018. And I have a little girl who's going to turn 3 in October, so I'm super excited for that. And
I'm Bree. I'm also 29. I have actually not been officially divorced yet. I've been separated for 8 months, and hopefully the divorce will be finalized by the end of the year. Yeah.
Wow. All right, so, and you don't have any children.
No children.
So
yeah.
your experience is a little bit different than Kimber's. So how do you two know each other?
Yeah, so I've been attending Institute because I'm doing school online, and so that's kind of a requirement to have the religion aspect for my classes. And we happened to be in the same class this summer, and the lesson was on marriage one time, and I was just, in my corner, just kind of like hunched over, just kind of feeling so many things about it, and she commented and said something about like, well, I'm divorced, and this is kind of my perspective on the situation. And so I instantly just like shot up and looked over at who it was, and then afterward came up to her and I was just like, thanks so much for your comment, because I'm going through a divorce right now, and I feel like an alien in so many of these single adult situations. So that kind of like sparked us starting to be friends. What was your
So this was an institute class that the two of you were in?
Yeah.
And what school are you going to online right now?
It's BYUI.
Oh, okay.
Online.
I teach for that school.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so if you ever end up in a Pakistan class, you might be in
I
my
don't
class.
know if I will, but
It's an awesome class. Everyone
Yeah.
comes in, they're like, I don't want to take this class. And then they get in, and by the end, they're like, I love this class. So just
Wow.
FYI, you would
Yeah.
love it. But, so you're still going through your divorce right now.
yeah,
So everything's
still
still
in
really...
the trenches of it. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
It sucks because, like, I've been divorced for 4 years, and I think, you shouldn't get divorced unless you absolutely have to, but I'm really grateful that it's there. But every time I hear of somebody new getting a divorce, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, there's like a mourning for them, and I feel bad because I know it's terrible.
Yeah.
But my experience of being divorced at 51 and having 3 kids, and the people that I'm dating and associating with is different than where you guys are at, both being young, 29. I'm trying to remember back. Like, I still feel 29, but I...
You look 29.
Oh, well, stretch. I'll accept 39. So, are you both in singles wards or married wards, or what are you doing?
So I go to a family ward just because of my daughter, and then usually when her dad has her, I just can't make it to the singles ward because I teach Sunday school, so it just usually lines up that way. But I try to attend a lot of the single activities of the young single adults, and then I've been also doing some of the mid-singles, and Institute too is a big thing. I moved here in December in Colorado, and I didn't have any family or friends, and so trying to get to know people was very difficult, and for a while I didn't get myself out there trying to get to know people. I just kind of did, my own thing, and so then I started trying to get out there, make friends, get to know people, and so I started Institute. That was a big thing. That was recommended to me that I should go, and I was like, well, trying to find a babysitter, but totally worth it. Definitely really helps, especially with going through a divorce and everything. It's been very helpful.
Is Institute a singles thing, or is it anyone goes?
They have some, you can go as like a married couple, but there's not many that come.
Yeah, it's mostly young single adults.
Yes.
But you'll get an older person in there every once in a while. Yeah.
So are you finding many other divorced people around your age, or you feel kind of like you're fish out of water?
I haven't met really any.
So yeah, it's actually interesting because the class that we were taking, it was like, what was the actual title of it?
Gospel in the Productive Life.
Yeah, so very basic class of like you're going through these different things like college and like life, and it's just like, okay,
money.
Yeah, like basic things that younger people go through when they're starting out college and kind of coming of age. And so some of the lessons, we definitely were like, oh
yeah.
I think that's where we started feeling, oh, it's great.
Totally good.
The class was great.
Even where I am at in my life taking that class, it was because I feel like I'm kind of starting over in some regards. So it was good for me to kind of think about certain topics every week that we were discussing. I definitely had different thoughts than some of the comments that were made in the class, but it was
agreed. And I that's the reason I took the class, is because I felt like I was starting over with life. And that's why I took it. But it was interesting too, because I felt like in that class the teacher and the topic drew a lot of younger people. And so that's where, when we made the connection of like realizing we were the same age, we were going through divorce, like it was awesome to have that to connect with someone that's similar to you. And
How long were each of you married?
9 years.
Wow, so you got married young.
Yeah.
Young, wow. Because I was married the same amount of time, but I didn't get married until I was almost 38.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah,
That's,
a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then for me, it was almost 8 years. So.
Oh, so both of you had fairly long marriages for your age.
Yes, yep.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting. One advantage I think that you have in a way over someone my age being divorced is that you can still get married again and be married for like 50 years. I mean, it could be like the marriage. It could almost be like you set aside the first one like it didn't happen.
Right.
But you have a child, it's different. But she's pretty young still as well. And so if you marry someone right now, it's like, this is the one, right? Whereas someone my age, it's obvious, and I get married a second time. Oh, that's got to be a second marriage. There's no way she's not.
Yeah. I think about that sometimes in like, if or when I get remarried, that people will see me and assume it's a first marriage, and kind of having to, I don't have to tell everyone,
I agree.
like, actually this is my second marriage,
Right.
So, but it will just be kind of like an underlying thing, that it's like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to communicate, like, when you're newlyweds again and people treat you different when you're a newlywed, that it will be kind of like, yeah, but it's a little different second time around, so I'm interested to see how that feels,
Yeah.
So have you're not dating yet then, because you're not
No, well,
divorced
no.
yet.
So I am actually attending a family ward. So I moved back in with my parents. So it's the ward that I pretty much grew up in. I mean, I was in that ward from like freshman year till I went to college. So it is a little interesting being back with like people that knew me, you know, or were my leaders in Young Women's and stuff. I think the most interesting, like people have been really welcoming and considerate, and they know what's going on. But I've been most interested that like no one really talks to me about it, because my husband and I struggled with infertility for years and years, and people wanted to talk to me about it all the time. Like I couldn't avoid that. I would come visit my family and people would corner me, you know, after sacrament meeting, and that I was always just really jarring. But so I kind of didn't know what to expect with this new thing, but like no one says anything about it.
That's really surprising to me that people would corner you about that, because
Right.
when you said you had been married for 9 years, that was my first thought, was why are there no kids? But I didn't ask.
Yeah.
Because I know that can be
Right.
difficult, and that's not one of the first things you want to ask someone out of the box.
Yeah.
You would think that, it's too bad you can't like get up in sacrament meeting and make an announcement and say, look,
Yeah.
we're having fertility issues, and I really don't want to talk about that, because
Right.
whenever you bring it up, it's really painful and like want to start crying.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be my feeling, because I remember, you know, when I got married at 38, it was like, I better get this done, because if I don't have kids now, I'm not going to have kids. And so there were so many times that it was like, oh, I'm not pregnant yet. And so even though I didn't go through it for very long, it felt like it's got to happen now.
Right.
And so it was very, very difficult. Like my first pregnancy ended in a miscarriage, and that was really painful. And so if I had been asked about that, I wouldn't have been able to hold it together. So,
And people are well-meaning, and it's hard to just think like their heart's in the right place. And I would just try and be kind and give as little information as I wanted to, you know.
Yeah.
But I think it's different because we are so centered on families, and having children is so important, that they think I need to help her, you know. But when it comes to divorce, that's like not something that people want to talk about. That's like a negative thing, and so I'm not gonna, you know, like what I wouldn't know what to say, you know, just things like that. So, and I'm really fine with no one asking me about it. It's better than
I don't
not
really
talking, but
feel the need to talk about it
Yeah.
either.
it's just been an interesting experience having it so different from before.
Right. And now it's like, well, it's almost like you are starting again. This is the second chapter
Yeah.
in your life. But again, it almost seems like an advantage to me that you are super young, that you can almost feel like, no, I'm just starting again. You
Yeah.
know, not a big deal. Like this is my
Yeah.
second chance. So do you run into guys that you're interested in, and you have to have that discussion like, well, I'm not divorced yet, so.
Yeah, so I've talked to a few guys here and there. It hasn't felt like I haven't felt like I shouldn't be doing this or anything. Of course, I would never like get into a relationship or anything like that. But there has a few times been the like, just so you know. But I've been like actually really pleasantly surprised how many of them are understanding and just like, yeah, that's, you know, we'll go at the pace it needs to go, like not, you know, it's totally fine. But yeah, since I'm still kind of in the trenches of it, like actual like head around dating is not really there yet. But
Yeah, you're not ready anyway. When will it be final, do you know?
hopefully by Thanksgiving
Okay.
time. Yeah.
So a few months.
She's doing all the work herself.
Oh.
So, hence why it is taking a little bit of a process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did it myself too, and it's not good times. But at least you don't have to deal with the child
Right.
situation.
I know.
So
Who would have thought that
I
after
know.
all that time it was a
something
blessing
that was
that we didn't
so
have children.
terrible becomes a positive now.
I know.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
We're not going to fight over who's going to have the kids and who's
Yeah.
paying child support and yeah.
And you can just not talk to them
Just
anymore.
plain
Yes,
break. Yeah.
exactly. You know, that is a really big advantage. Take that from us, right?
Yeah.
Even if you get along, because I get along with my ex all right, and, you know, we do the kid thing okay, but still, there's always, you know,
Right.
there's always that reminder when you see them for
Yeah.
more than 10 minutes of why while you're not married anymore. So yeah, you'll get to walk away and just be done.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So, Kimber, you are out there dating now.
Yes.
And I know that because I saw it on Facebook, which good luck with that. No, I just got out of a relationship. I don't know if you know, we broke up
Yes.
last Thursday, and it was about 3 months. But I purposely, and I'm going to tell everyone out there, I purposely did not put it on Facebook. I didn't change it to in a relationship status. And the reason I didn't do that is because I've seen too many people. That's why I'm saying good luck. I really hope it works. But I've seen too many people where they go on there and they post things and then it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, well, what happened? Where's so-and-so? And it's like, oh, crap. I don't want to go on there. Have to say I'm broken up. I mean, I did, because I'm on this podcast and I've announced that, I'm talked about being in the relationship because it relates to what we're talking about. And so I did put on there, I need breakup music. Because I wanted people to know, first of all, I wanted men to know that I was available again. But also, some people knew that I was in a relationship. I wanted people to know that I was out. But I never said his name and I never posted pictures or anything just because I didn't want to have to go back and unwind,
Yeah.
Like, there's a friend that recently was engaged and he announced it. And I always thought, yeah, I would do that. But now his engagement broke up. And so he had to go and mention it. And I just thought,
Yeah.
that's hard.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're definitely in a different situation because you're so public with everything.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I think I don't have, most of my friends are just like my family and
So you're saying you don't
close
have a big
friends.
Facebook presence?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and for me, obviously this relationship is a lot different than any relationship I've been in. I did date someone serious before, and then after that, it was just kind of like dates here and there. But I didn't even post about the first guy that I kind of got serious with. This definitely feels different.
How long have you been dating?
1st of August.
Okay, so 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I met him because I met him.
Yeah.
He seems like a really good one.
Yes.
I mean, not just my impression, but you guys look really cute on Facebook together. And
Thank
you seem
you.
to be bonding with your daughter. And
Yes, yeah. And, just because it feels so different, I'm taking that risk. I just feel so right about it that it's worth me taking
So
that.
how does it feel different? Because the one that I was in was good, but obviously it didn't feel different, I guess, because it's not going anymore.
Okay, so I think the biggest thing is making sure, where you stand before God, in your relationship with God, and then that comes second, that relationship with another person, and making sure that it feels right that way. Obviously, I think different people come into your life for different reasons. Sometimes it's just because a reason for you to meet them and learn something new. I think that's what happened with the other guy that I actually dated for a set amount of time. That's actually why I ended up in Colorado, is because I dated him.
Oh, okay.
And that kind of opened my eyes to the single scene in Colorado, and I thought, I should probably head over there. I'm from Oklahoma, so that's where I was living. And the single scene, my singles ward, I went 2 times, and it was probably maybe 10 people there, and they were all
Your cousins.
no, they were not my cousins.
That's where you go
But
to
that's a
family
good guess, very good guess. But yeah, a lot of them were pre-mission age and right after their mission, so big age gap and just not a lot of people. So that's what brought me here and what made me meet this new guy. So. Yeah.
And so, also at your age, you're kind of on that cusp of being out of the YSA
Right.
demographic.
Yeah.
So age-wise, you're almost out of it, but also you both have experienced a lot more than your typical 29, never been married. So you're different, because never been married. I remember being 29 and not married, and you work, you go to school, you're just trying to find yourself. And that's one thing, but being 29 and having been through a difficult marriage and a difficult divorce, and then you having a child, totally different. There goes the ice maker, not making noise. But so it doesn't. It makes you a different person altogether from the other 29-year-olds. How old is the guy that you're dating right now?
He's 25. He's going to be 26 in December. So Bree makes fun of me all the time because he's younger than me.
Yeah, I'm like, that's a little young for me.
That's funny. So I'm guessing he has not been married before.
No, he has not.
And how is he with your life experience? Like, is he
Great.
You've talked about this at length.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Like he knows my whole story. He knows everything. And I even asked him last night, I said, you know, because we were playing with my daughter, and I said, has this ever like overwhelmed you? Like at any point? And he was like, no. I mean, like I've had to think about it because obviously that's something that you're choosing to like, you know, it's not just me. He's taking on my daughter too. So
And an ex-husband.
correct.
Mm-hmm. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
You're not going to have that issue. You'll be able to walk away and be like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, whoever we end up with, they're taking on kids and the relationship with the ex. And if your ex remarries, the relationship with the ex and the ex's spouse.
Yep.
So it is a lot.
Yeah,
But
and-
the 25-year-old is. Do you think he's? I'm sure he'll be watching.
He will be watching.
Is he pretty mature? Do you think? Because I know a kickball, he can be a little immature. He knows what I'm talking about. I remember him backing out of the room to come back and kick the kickball. I'm like, he's taking this seriously. No, I had a good impression of him because he was funny, and you could tell he doesn't take himself too seriously.
Yeah, but he's very mature about it. I think the biggest thing is the communication is there. We constantly try and talk about things, and I've always asked like, what questions do you have? So he knows he can ask me anything, and then I try to make sure if there's an idea that I haven't thought, like, oh, he probably needs to understand this, you know, understand this custody part of how it might work in the future or things like that. I make sure to bring it up with him so that he's aware and isn't blindsided in the future, because that's the biggest thing I would not want to happen. But
Right.
I guess Bree can talk to his maturity too.
I don't know him that well, but no, I like him. He's fun and funny and lighthearted, and they seem like a good match. So I'm excited
So-
to see where they go.
You feel like you can be yourself around him.
Correct, yeah.
And he can be himself around you. I was just talking to Jim Jacobs, dating coach, last night on an episode, which will be airing before this one, on overcoming fears in dating, especially after divorce. And one of the things he talked about was how sometimes we get to this place where we're not being ourselves, like we're performing. And I'm like, some of the things he's mentioning, I'm like, oh, I see myself there. And I'm in my next relationship, I need to make sure I'm not doing that. Because what's the point in performing for someone if then you can't be yourself? Like, do you want to spend the rest of your life performing? No. And then the other one that he talked about was how sometimes we tend to hotwire our connections by getting physical too quickly, and like, oh, I'm not feeling a connection. I know how we can connect, right?
Yeah.
And the physical is almost always there. You know, like you have a man and a woman. And you're both normal, and you're not repelled by each other. That can be there. And so it was interesting. I learned a lot from last night's episode, and hopefully everyone that hasn't watched it or listened to it, go back and listen to it. But it's been resonating with me all night since last night. How much can I be myself in a relationship, and how much can he be himself? And if we both are being ourselves and come together, is that a really strong, good connection? And without having to hotwire it. And also talked about slowing it down if you feel those things are happening. And so I'm like looking back at my last relationship going, okay, maybe I should have done a few things differently, you know? But that's one nice thing about being in a relationship like the one you were in before, is that you learn something from it. Like I learned about a lot about myself and a lot about what I do and don't want in the next relationship. So it sounds like you did that with the last one.
Correct,
This one's a
yeah.
little bit different. Like I'm sure you're still learning,
Oh, of course, yeah.
but maybe it's less learning and more like, oh, this is a really good one.
Yes.
That's fine.
Yes, he is a very good one. I don't know, it just is definitely different with the way I feel about it. There's just a stronger connection than I've ever felt. And it just like, it feels right, totally right. But, you know, maybe
Yes.
that's just for right now.
Yeah.
Just like I learned in, you know, that relationship that I started out that got me here in Colorado to meet my now
Yeah.
boyfriend. So
You never know why you're meeting someone and what their role
Correct.
in your life is.
Mhm.
So I have to kind of make myself remember not to get too hooked on the outcome, right? Of anything in life, really. Like, just go where you feel like you need to be going, and don't get too like focused on, okay, I'm gonna marry this one, or this is gonna be my career, or this is the way this is gonna go, or anything. Just like go with where it feels like it needs to go, like, and where the Spirit's moving you, and just let it go where it's supposed to naturally go, instead of forcing something. Because when you force something is when you end up at like the wrong place, because it was an artificial thing.
Sure.
So
yeah, I feel like that's a point where I've gotten to. Like at the very beginning, it was almost panic of like, I'm dating, like I need to find someone, like I'm getting to that point where I want to have more kids. I don't know if I'll be able to because of my age.
by the way, I had my first child when I was almost 40.
I know, this gives me
FYI.
hope. And look how amazing she looks. So.
And I managed to squeeze out 3, and that was after a miscarriage. So I was telling
Yeah.
them, when you're like in your 20s or even in your 30s, don't freak out too much, because it can still happen, you know. And my 3 are Irish triplets, is what the doctor called them, because I had them in 2008, 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
And then I was done, and that was good. I used to want like 6. Now that I have my 3, because kids are so strong-willed these days. I don't know if I could do 6 strong-willed kids. 3 is, I'm barely, you know, hanging on. So, trying to think what else I want to talk to you ladies about. Do you have any, like, anything that you feel like is helpful for other people in your age range that might be going through a divorce, you know, a young 29 or even younger? Because there are some people that go through and maybe have really short marriages, you know, and end up back out on the single scene in their 20s. And re-entry is difficult. It can be really, even just getting out of my last relationship, I was just out of the single scene for 3 months, and then I came back, it was like, oh man, this is hard being back amongst
Right. Well, I
singles
haven't
again.
dated since like basically 2009.
It is different.
Dating was completely different then, you know? Like I didn't even have a smartphone
I
back then. So like
Isn't that funny
it's
how things
totally
have
different.
changed
Yeah.
technologically in just 10 years?
It's good, but not
Yeah, it's
in
good.
some
It
ways.
makes it easier to meet people, although it's, I don't know, it's just different. But yeah, it's like just getting back into that scene is just so weird, you know? When you've been married for so long, it's just weird to all of a sudden be thrown back into that again. So
And now people can break up with you via text.
right.
That wasn't before. It used to be they actually at least had to call you.
Well, and that's the thing is I think communication is so different because we've
Yeah.
allowed social media to like completely overtake us. So I dated online for a while. So when I first got here, I was telling you I didn't get myself out a lot, but I was doing the online dating. Because I felt like that's the only way I could meet people, especially having a daughter and only going to a family ward. And so I connected with a lot of guys. A lot of times it would be through social media, and then maybe a communication would start, like a conversation would start, and then it just kind of would stop.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
a lot of times that's what happens is like the conversation will start and then there's no action by either person. And I feel like that's because we're so easy to like hide behind our phones and our profiles and just everything that we just let it slip.
It's super annoying too. You know, I mean, especially because I'm doing this podcast, and so I'm on Facebook, and I accept almost all friend requests because I want people to, you know, listen to the podcast. And so I will get messages every day from these total strange random guys in like different states. I don't respond to 90% of those. Just because I accepted your friend request doesn't mean
I want to date
I'm
you.
available to chat with you. You know, and that's the funny thing is like it gives people that feeling that we are totally accessible, but I don't have to answer the phone if someone calls. So I liken it to that. Just because someone messages me through Facebook doesn't mean I have to respond. I'm not going to spend all my time talking to total strangers in like Florida, you know?
Yeah.
And that is one of the frustrating things about, you know, modern dating is that it's way too easy to access each other And so,
And I think we take it for granted. I mean, that's a lot of what people will tell me is right now what's happening is FOMO, so the fear of missing out.
yeah, FOMO.
And so there's just so many options that they're not settling. They're not deciding. Oh, and I don't mean settle as in a bad word. I mean, they're just not taking the time to invest in other people and really get to know them.
Right.
And so it's really actually a disadvantage to themselves because they're not able to develop those skills of dating and communicating and conversing with other people in real life.
Right. And there's so many women, I suppose, compared to men, available online. And so, like, men can just be like, no, 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 no. Okay, maybe. Nope, no, 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 maybe, you know. And the women are like, I've got maybe 3 to I can choose from that are in my age range, that are decent, you know, members of the church and all that kind of thing. But one of my big pet peeves, and I'm going to throw it out there right now because this is happening a lot. Like on Planet, just getting these dumb little flirts, or he liked your photo. Am I supposed to do something with that? Because send me a message, like read my profile. You know, learn about me a little bit,
time.
and then like send me a personal message. I will respond to that. But just this it almost makes me think that sometimes people, I was going to say men, but I think maybe women do it too. I don't know. Think they get whatever satisfaction or whatever they need from just that going on and liking people and then putting their phone down and going away without ever actually following through and like having a relationship or even going on a date. And that's not what I'm here for.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and that's what I feel like so many of us are living in just this virtual world. And we need to get out of that. Because, I mean, even I was listening to a talk by President Nelson talking about how the men need to get off their phones and pay attention to their wives and their children.
Yes.
And so I just feel like a lot of times we do that. And there's actually a photographer that recently did a series based on editing out the phones of our hands, and it just how lifeless like people look.
People are like this with just looking at their hand. Yeah. Well, they showed a couple in bed together, and they were each turned the other way, looking at their hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's really too bad that we're so focused, and I'm terrible at it. I mean, I have to sometimes take my phone and put it in a drawer, close the drawer, and be like, okay, I'll check on you in 2 hours. Because otherwise it's like OCD. I'm on that thing constantly.
Well, and that's what I think is happening. So Mutual is a big app that I think a lot of our generation uses to meet people, more than like LDS Planet. And with Mutual, a lot of the guys will just put their Instagram handle on their profile. So you think, okay, you know, I think they're cute, I'll go add them. And then nothing, like it's just like they just want followers. Like they're not, like they'll accept you, but then nothing. So it's just, I mean, a lot of times I like communicating. So I would actually say, hey, I saw you on Mutual, really liked your profile, you know, just wanted to say hi. But then they won't even respond. They just add you and that's it. It's like, okay, let's take some actions here.
I did not realize that. So are you, in Millennials, are you more on Instagram than Facebook now?
Yeah.
Is Facebook like an old people thing now?
I still use Facebook. Like for me, that's why like I document things on there because it's like almost a yearbook for me, especially with my daughter.
Interesting.
Like I like going back and seeing my memories and everything like that.
But how is Instagram different? I mean, I guess I've got a profile over there, but I never go on it. So
She's more into Instagram. So.
I mean, that's just how I'm an artist, so I have kind of a little bit of a following for that, and so that's why I keep it up.
What is it, an Instagram
handle? It's just my name, so it's Bree Gawkowski.
You'll probably have to spell
that
out.
Spell it.
Right now, BRIGAWKOSKI.
All right. I will link to that too on AnnetteTalks.com. So how is Instagram different from Facebook?
I don't know.
I just feel like the presence is there.
Yeah.
Like everyone's on there.
Everyone's on there.
They're constantly posting stories. Obviously, you have the Facebook stories, but so many people are on Instagram constantly posting stories
and it's more kind
posting
of like
pictures.
For me, it's like a creative space. When Facebook is like keeping up with your grandma, you know, like
That's right here. I guess I need to maybe take the
No
next
offense to
step
anyone that uses Facebook
into
regularly,
the
but
current, because grandmas.
I use Facebook a lot.
No,
Okay.
I hear people use it.
I've
Yeah.
heard that before, and just because I've never really, like, I'm almost afraid that I'll go over to Instagram and get hooked on Instagram, and then I'll be like, oh, now I get to constantly check both Facebook and Instagram all day.
Yeah.
But it sounds like if I want a presence, I'm going to have to get over there.
Maybe.
Because with grandma over on Facebook. Well,
Yeah.
podcasts do tend to appeal to the younger set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did want to say something I'm kind of learning in this whole process, and quickly learning, is that when it comes to like sharing my story, whether it's with someone that I'm talking to or even just like a friend that I run into, you know, or someone at church, like I'm realizing that, you know, I don't have to get into all of the hairy details of what led me to this moment right now, you know, because I felt that need for so long because I felt wronged in so many ways, and I felt like I needed to explain that to everyone, like to explain how I was wronged and why I'm here, because when you hear divorce, that can mean so many things. And I realized that when I would do that, it would, one, bring up all of those feelings again as I'm retelling it, and then two, just give someone information that they don't necessarily need, you know? And so that's been a big one for me, is like slowly letting time just, when it's time to tell someone, and if they need to know, then it will happen, you know? Like, it doesn't need to be immediately sharing everything.
Well, you've already learned that a lesson that a lot of people at my age and beyond have not learned then. So I'm really glad, because that's one of the things that I wrote in the book. My friend Steve and I wrote a book on dating after divorce in the church, which you can find on the net. It's called Dating After Divorce, an LDS Survival Guide. And one of the things that I talk about is do not share your divorce story on a first date. You know, and actually I would say wait, maybe second, third date. You can tell them, yes, I've been divorced for X amount of months or years or whatever, and I have however many kids, but you don't want to go into it, because for one thing, it's going to make the other person a little uncomfortable. Also, you haven't developed trust with that person, so you don't need to share personal things with them. And also, good point, you don't need all those emotions coming up on a first date. So I'm glad that you recognize that, because it really, there's a place for it. There's a time for it.
Well, and I think it shows a lot about the person that you are going on a date with, if it's in the dating aspect that we're talking about. Just because if they don't, that doesn't matter to them, you know, like they're just accepting you for who you are at that moment. It's very refreshing and free.
Well, and you don't want to bore anyone. Like I went on a date with a guy one time, and it was a 2-hour date, and I think I told him my divorce story in about 5 or 10 minutes, because it was just real over.
Oh, no.
You know? And the rest of it was his divorce story and his marriage story. And it's funny because I cannot remember his name, but I can tell you all about the things that his wife did. It was not a good date. I felt like an unpaid therapist, and so
I think it's important to know that for yourself, and saying like, I am going to keep this close until it's time. But also, because like the reason that I know that is because people would ask me, and I feel obligated to say, instead of just sitting back and saying, well, do they need to know this? You know, like, why are they asking? Like, let's just give them the minimum amount that they need to know.
It didn't work out.
Right.
It just didn't work out. Like, it's kind of when I tell my kids, they don't need to know. I don't need them to know, and I don't want them to know all of those things. So I would, you know, my ex and I decided at the beginning that we would just say that we just didn't work out. You know, when they're much, much older, maybe they might need to know more, maybe not. And so when you're dating, you only need to drop a little bit at a time. So, awesome. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up, because we've been typical ladies chatting for a while. But I really appreciate both of you being willing to come on and share your perspectives, because it is different. But you know, I want to reiterate what I was talking to a millennial friend of mine day before, and I said, obviously all millennials are not the same. And she's like, finally, somebody recognized that. Just like no groups are all, you know. all 51-year-olds are not the same. All women are not the same. All African Americans are not the same. All gay people are not the same. Everyone's not the same.
Yeah.
But there are some commonalities to millennials. And so you're being at your age and divorced is completely different from being at my age and divorced. And so I appreciate hearing from your perspective. And so if the listeners want to get a hold of either one of you for some reason, maybe there are other millennials out there that are in the same boat and want to talk to you, what's a good way to get a hold of one of you or both of you?
So you can reach me on Instagram at With Love Kimber, or my Facebook, Kimber Larson Hawes. That's Haws.
And then just my Instagram is probably the easiest. So I
Unless you're her grandma. Find her on
Grandma
Facebook.
won't be there.
yeah.
All right. And I will do my best to link to, I think I can link to
Yeah.
Instagram, can't I? Shows you how ignorant I am. I can link to my Facebook page on Annette Talk, so I'm sure I can link to your Instagram. So you'll need to send me.
Or just put the handle down. People can
Is that what
type
they
it
call it on Instagram? A handle?
That's what I call it.
Because Facebook is your username, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway. All right. Well, thank you, ladies.
Yeah.
It's been lovely chatting. Thank you for listening to LDS Unmarried Life. Again, you can find this at iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. Or come on to AnnetteTalks.com and make any comments that you want, or reach out to me at AnnetteTalks.com. And this has been LDS Unmarried Life, where singles gather.
I'm gonna bloom where I'm planted. I won't take things for granted. Come what may, bring it on. I'm gonna love it